Your feet in the air and your head on the ground. Try this trick and spin it, yeah. Your head will collapse and there's nothing in it, so you'll ask yourself, where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
Hi everyone, welcome to Everything. Today we have a very special guest. We've been wanting to interview this amazing lady for months. We're so busy, she's so busy, but finally we got to see her, meet her in person. So thank you again, Jazz, for offering this beautiful house. Nothing could be more perfect. And ladies and gentlemen, meet the very empowering, inspiring, tenacious, I'd say never giving up young lady, ALYSHA GILL.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, I am so happy that we finally got to talk to each other.
I
How
know
are
it's
you?
been so long. Good. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Well, I
Good.
watch her posts. I read the poems that you write, and they're so deep, they're so intense, and I'm sure so many people can relate. ALYSHA is, she calls herself the anxious fighter.
Yes.
And these two words describe who she is. She has anxiety, and I'm going to ask her to describe more what she goes through. But she's a fighter. She goes through her mental health struggles every day. But the good thing about ALYSHA is she survives them every day, right?
Yes.
Okay, so ALYSHA, tell me, how and when did you know that you were having these mental health struggles?
So for me, it kind of started, in grade 12. Before that, I never really felt any, anxiety. Well, I'd have everyday anxiety just for little things like doing tests and stuff like that. But it was always manageable, and I felt like it was normal for me. But then in grade 12, those feelings started to get more intense. The feelings of anxiousness, just feeling very down and depressed, being more moodier, not wanting to go out and socialize as much. Stuff like that started happening, and it wasn't my normal self. So I would say, 2012, and then now it's 2018. So for about 5 years now, I've been having it.
Oh, wow. Do you think there was something that triggered that, or was it just something that developed in you?
I feel like there could be a couple of things that, added to it, but I think it was a mixture of a bunch of things. For me, it could have been, family stress. My parents were splitting up during that time, so there was a lot of family problems, so that could have added to it. And then I also had a concussion in grade 11. And then towards grade 12, I started getting really bad migraines. So I definitely think the concussion and the head injury, affected my mental health. And just as well as just the transition from high school into the real world, right? Grade 12 is a very hard time for all of us, trying to discover what we're going to do next, and, going from a very regular routine to something completely different. So I think all those things kind of affected my mental health.
That's true. And you're very young then. No one's ever ready for what's to come, right?
Yeah.
And again, we can never say that we're free from different influences around us.
Yes.
And sometimes you just have to really cope. You really need to just battle everything.
Yeah.
Not everybody is as strong as you. And that's the reason why we wanted to feature you, because unfortunately we just see in the news that somebody gave up.
Yeah.
And whenever I read about that, I go like, no, no, not again, right? We could save you. And the one most powerful thing, as far as I believe, that can save someone is hearing someone else's story.
I completely agree with you, and that's why I decided to come out and talk about my story. At the beginning, I wasn't so sure, and part of me was kind of like, I'm a strong person, but I'm going through all this stuff, and I don't want to tell people. But then there just came a point in my life where I said, why should I be ashamed of my story? It's affecting my daily functions, and it's such a big part of my life that it's creating the person that I am today and the person that I'm going to be tomorrow. So why should I hide that? You know, everyone experiences pain, suffering, you know, whether it's mental health, physical health, grief, divorce. There's so many different things in life that everyone goes through, right? So why should we be ashamed of it? Because it's such a big part of us, right?
Yes, that's true. It's like a physical illness. It's just not being talked about for a while, and it's really high time that people know that mental health is just like physical health.
Yes.
And if you don't talk about it, if you don't address that issue, then who's going to get sick? You are going to get more sick, right?
Exactly.
But the good thing is, with you sharing your story, you have no idea how many lives you're touching, how many lives you're saving, and they just need to know they're not alone, right? Because you still go through it. So what's a typical day that you have?
So for me, I still kind of go through these mental health struggles on I would say a daily basis, and it kind of goes up and down quite a bit for me. I think the biggest symptom, you know, that is the hardest for me right now is my mood fluctuation. So I'd be really feeling really high for a few days. I'll be doing a bunch of different things that, you know, in one day and having a full day, and then maybe the next week I'll feel really low. And on those low days, sleeping is my escape. I like to sleep a lot. It's really hard for me just to get up and shower, brush, just basic things that we should be doing every day to take care of ourselves becomes really difficult. And it's really hard to live a life and to just do things like going to work, going to volunteering, going to school, things that I want to be doing and a lot of people my age right now are doing. It's very hard for me because of these mood swings.
And you know, that's why we appreciate what you do. Like, we admire you because you have to battle all of this all the time, and still you're able to do something. You're able to reach out to others, and it's not easy to share your story because it's open to so much judgment because of the stigma. Although you look at it now, it's way better than like 5 years ago, right? But even then, there's still that stigma, and we hope that one day this stigma will go away because everybody goes through a mental health difficulty every day.
Yes.
As they say, you just have to cope. Like, anxiety is important, right? Because it's your natural way to battle whatever problems you have. Well, in your case, what actually is it anxiety? What actually do you go through when you talk about your mental health struggle?
So that's actually the hardest part for me to explain to people because I haven't had a set diagnosis that I really believe that I have. I've been diagnosed with everything, you know, being bipolar, having borderline personality disorder, having depression, anxiety. So I've had all these different diagnoses and nothing seems to fit. No medication seems to fit. So for me, I explain my story, not with my diagnosis, but what I go through on a daily basis. So for me, those symptoms would include having those mood swings, having moments of extreme, you know, panic modes, having maybe panic attacks, you know, having my heart racing, I'm just feeling really low and paranoid, having like negative thoughts, racing thoughts. So just a variety of symptoms I actually face.
Wow. And during your darkest, your most difficult moments, what do you do to try to, or do you just let it pass? What do you actually do to get out of that dark hole?
So when I'm actually in that dark hole, it's very hard to get out of. It lasts usually a few days and then it'll get better. And once it's better, and that's when I'm able to manage and do my, you know, my therapies and go to counseling and do those things to better myself, practicing self-care. But when I'm actually in that deep hole, it's hard. Like, I'll be honest. I don't practice self-care. It's very difficult for me to get out of bed and do those things. So the biggest thing for me right now is when I'm in that stage to kind of accept that it's happening and just sit with my emotions, let myself feel what I'm feeling. And it's difficult. Like right now I'm in a good place and it's fine, right? But when I'm in a place of negativity, my confidence goes down, everything goes low, and I don't think I'm worthy, and I have all these negative feelings towards myself and life. But then it passes and it gets better again.
Right? Yeah, that dark hole is where you don't value yourself. Yes. You think you're not doing anything good. You think you're not good enough. Yeah. But then people see you for your value. Yeah. But then, you know, that's the problem with mental health because sometimes you think so low of yourself. Yeah. You lose confidence. when it's actually the opposite, right?
Yeah.
But it happens. It's very normal. Like your poems. Like I love to talk about your poems, and because they talk about you, and you mention so much pain, so much struggle, but then at the end of your poem is always, there's always hope. There's always that inspiration.
Yes.
So is that one, when do you write your poem?
So I usually write my poems when I'm in that dark hole, actually, when I'm able to get out of my symptoms and manage to get myself up. The first thing I'll do is want to write. So all my poems are written, all the dark poems at least, are written when I'm in that dark hole. And for me, that's a coping mechanism, and it's a way for me to practice self-care and release my emotions and whatever I'm feeling. So I'll write the poems, and usually when I write them, it's a way of me releasing whatever I'm feeling inside and my emotions, and just letting them go and just be out there.
Where is my mind?
And they're powerful. Like, I love your poems. Every time I see them, she's just like her mom. You got that from your mom, right? She's your mom is a very talented poet and writer. And then when I saw you and saw your work, I go like, oh, she's her mom's daughter.
Yeah, but better.
Right? And I'm glad you have that. Your twinsies.
Yeah.
Poems aside, who do you think is your biggest supporter, or who do you run to for major support?
I would definitely say it's my family. I'm very blessed. I have amazing, mom and dad and a brother or sister, extended family, friends, cousins. I have a lot of support, so in that way I'm super blessed. So I feel like, I can kind of go to any one of them and I'll be fine. But the biggest people I usually go to is my mom and my sister.
Oh, there you go. Understandably.
The women.
Right, the women, girl power.
Girl power,
Because you have to, it's good to know that you have them, right?
Yeah.
Because then sometimes when you're not really, you don't really want to go out there. You just want to be, just a hug. As they say, a hug. Does that work for you just sometimes?
Just a hug, just a cuddling. Like sometimes if I'm laying in bed, I'll just just get my sister to come in, or mom. I'm like, I need cuddles today, and that's what helps sometimes, right? But there's moments also where you can't go to your family and you can't go to your cousins because they're affected by what you're dealing with, because they're your family, right?
That's true.
If you see your sister hurt, you'll be hurting. If you see your child hurt, you'll hurt automatically, right? That's natural. So when I'm in stages where it gets really bad and I have very negative thoughts about death, things like that, and I don't want to worry my family, and I don't want to put that burden and stress on them, I go to professional help. So I have, a psychiatrist that's very good, and I also have a counselor who's amazing, and I go to them, and I just release what I need to say what I need to say, and just release my emotions, and that's also another big help for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I hope that your story now that you're sharing will inspire a lot of those who are undergoing the same problem, because I bet you everybody has that moment. What do you think is the best tip that you can share, or the best message you can give to someone who's going through a mental health struggle, someone who almost wants to give up? What do you think is the first thing that they should do or think about?
I think the biggest thing is recognizing that you have that problem. Recognizing that problem and really ask for help. I think asking for help and recognizing that there's something going on is a huge thing. And then the third thing is not to be ashamed of what we're going through. A lot of the time, it's easy to feel ashamed, and have negative feelings towards what we're dealing with. But to understand that this is something that everyone deals with, and it's just like a physical illness, that's just the most important thing, I think, is recognizing that you are having these issues, and then acknowledging them, accepting them, right, and then not being ashamed of them.
That's amazing. And now you're older, definitely.
Yeah.
You're stronger.
Yeah.
And maybe those little challenges won't affect you anymore.
Yeah.
But they would probably still be the big ones, right?
Yeah.
What do you consider big enough to affect you mentally?
But for me, before, a lot was my suicidal thoughts, and And that was my biggest thing. That was my biggest fear of not being able to trust myself and what I would do next. Feeling that's what I was meant to do. So I think having those thoughts was my biggest thing. But then I had a really big life-changing experience that made me realize that that's not what I want. And so after that life-changing experience, I can tell you about that later, I've realized that's not what I want. So that's a really weight lifted off my chest. But my thing is that coming back, having that fear of having those thoughts again.
Well, I'd like to hear about that life-changing experience.
Yeah, so this was August 18th, a few months ago, or last month, or 2 months ago. So I was walking my dog, and I wasn't feeling well, and I was feeling very negative, and thoughts about not wanting to live were getting really intense. And I really wanted to carry out those plans of not wanting to be here. And my sister was getting married August 25th, so I was trying to keep it together for my sister's wedding, you know, and manage and stay out of the hospital and, you know, do all those things, and just be okay for my family. But the feelings were just getting really, really intense. And so every day just felt like another day. I was just trying to get by and get through the day. I would do whatever I could to get through the day, whether it was taking medication, you know, having to smoke or do anything else, like anything that was not very good for me at the time, I would do just to get through the day, simply. So then this day came, August 18th, and I wake up and I'm not feeling well again, and I take my dog for a walk, and I go to this creek behind my house, and I'm there, and it's like a very hidden creek. Not a lot of people go there. It's very hidden, and I go through the kind of, I cut through like the trees and stuff, and I get to the stream. So that's even more difficult to find. So I'm sitting there, and my dad comes, right? And I tell him not to come. And I'm like, don't come, don't come, don't come. But he ends up coming anyways because he had this feeling, you know, or whatever, right? And so we're sitting there, we're talking, and all of a sudden I started feeling like my body was just giving out. I thought originally maybe it's a panic attack. And so I didn't want to stress out my dad, so I told him that I was going to get up and I was going to go to the other side of the creek for a walk and then go home. And then all of a sudden, I get up and I just fall over. And then it gets all blurry from there. Like I fall over, I try to get up and I can't move. My whole body is not moving. And then I lose my speech. I'm trying to talk to my dad and he's asking me what's happening and I'm talking to him, but he's not understanding what I'm saying. And then I start hearing myself and I hear myself just babbling, trying to talk, but the words are not coming out. And so when that happens, you know, I'm kind of scared, but then, you know, I'm like telling my dad not to call 911 because I'm tired of going to the hospital. But he's calling and he's crying, so I think it's serious. So before I didn't think it was serious, but at that point, I thought it was serious. So then the paramedics come, please come, and everyone come. And the paramedics are talking right there, but they think I'm not listening, I'm not able to understand, but I can. I just can't verbalize what I'm trying to feel inside, right? You know, and they say, you know, it's an early onset of MS, or it could be a stroke. So at that point, I start freaking out. I start crying because I'm trying to tell them that I'm okay and that's not happening. And then I get scared thinking that's actually what's happening. And so they carry me out of there, and I get out of there, and I get into the ambulance, and they're taking me to the hospital. And then the paramedic says to me, you know, if your heart stops beating, can I perform CPR on you? That would be the first time in 5 years that I would be scared of dying. So it's really, really big. Let me say that to you, like, again, one more time. You know, that would be the first time in 5 years that I would be scared to die. So I needed that scare really badly. I needed that scare enough for me to realize that life, you know, is precious, and life is something that I should want to do and I should want to live. And I never thought I'd be scared of death. I thought that's what I wanted. As a matter of fact, you know, I can recall several times in that same month, in August, telling God, you know, kill me, do something, scare me, kill me. Like, I don't care. That's what I want. And I'd say it. I'd go to the temple and I'd pray. I said, I want to die. Let me go. And when I said it out loud, I put it out there. God clearly listened to me. And he said, okay, you're dumb. I'm going to tell you now that, you know, this is not what you want. So he scared me. God scared me. And he told me that, you know what, you are scared of dying, and that's not actually what you want, even though your thoughts are telling you that sometimes. So when that happened, it was very scary, and it was scary for my family and everyone around me. But really, after a few days in the hospital, like I realized that it really did save me. So it was a really scary incident, but it saved me.
It was your wake-up call.
Yeah, I feel like it was like a near-death experience that actually saved me.
Like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
You have to experience that moment.
Yeah.
Right? It's really something that you want.
Yeah.
Because of course when you're sad, you're weak, you're down,
Yeah.
you think the easiest way to solve the problem is to just end it all, right?
Yeah.
But aside from the fact that it is very scary, you don't know what's out there, like what's going to happen to your family. It's going to be devastating for
Exactly.
everyone, right?
Yeah. You know, and that's what you think when you're in that state. But you know, when people are having these thoughts, like a lot of crazy things happen in your head, and yeah, we think about our families, but then there came a time where I'm like, well, what about me? What do I want?
Yes,
you know,
that's true.
I don't want them to suffer, but I'm suffering now, and I want the suffering to end. And I was really convinced that I wanted to die, and that was the right thing to do for myself. And you know, that's something I thought about for a very long time, and I really thought that was the right decision. And so it's just crazy that something like that would happen and scare you enough to make you realize that no, living is what you wanted to do.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. And you know, it's October now.
Yeah.
And have you ever had a chance during a low moment to remember that?
Yes.
Do you use that? Do you purposely try to remember that? Or does it just come to your mind?
I try not to think about it because it was a very scary time. But then I make myself go there because I have to.
Yes.
Because I still, you know, get those thoughts, you know, of death. For whatever reason, it's something that, you know, is on my mind a lot. You know, my psychiatrist said that, you know, you could have an OCD about suicide and death. And some people do that. They get an obsession with it. And for me, that happens a lot. Like, you know, I think about it quite a lot, right? And so right now, I do get those thoughts sometimes when I'm in a low. But then I'll think about that time, and I'll think about, okay, you know, ALYSHA, you had that moment where they said, you know, if your heart stops beating, do you want me to perform CPR on you? Again, you said yes. So you said yes for a reason, right? Yes, I had to think about it before I said yes, or nod in my head because I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
You know, but you still nodded your head, right? And you wanted this. So now that I have those thoughts, they still frustrate me. They still put me in a really low mood. They still there's days where I don't get out of bed. But the biggest weight has been lifted knowing that living is what I want to do. And I feel like now those thoughts don't scare me as much because I know that that's not what I want in life.
Yeah.